Again to another Peaceful Solution certification class. We'd like to welcome all of you joining us online from overseas and many different countries that are joining in. We'd like to thank you for joining. Make sure you have your acceptance books ready to go. And if you haven't downloaded that yet, make sure to go onto our Facebook page where you can download them for free. Just go to the menu there where you see the character unit and download that acceptance unit. Download them both. You really need them both because they're going to be building one upon another. So you want to make sure you have those books as we proceed through the class. So if you could be turning over to chapter 6, that's where we left off. We had just began chapter 6, going through the introduction, our last class, and we were discussing chapter 6, which is reaching for your goals. And of course, that's building upon the last chapter 5, where there's a purpose to it all. And we talked about having a purpose in life and how the purpose works together with accomplishing goals and establishing goals and achieving goals. And that's the most important part about creating realistic, positive goals, is achieving them. You can set many goals, and here in the next few months, a lot of people will set a lot of goals, and they'll call them New Year's resolutions. And usually they're started, and everybody's determined, the last day of the year, come January 1st, I'm going to have my new resolution, and by January 5th, the new resolution is gone. Usually most people are, stop smoking, lose weight, things of that sort, but it never seems to be too comfortable. It's not an easy thing to do, so people walk away from them. And the one thing we have to remind ourselves that any goal that's worth achieving is going to have some challenges to it. It's going to have some difficulties to it. And when we set our mind to have these goals and to accomplish these positive goals, is something that we have to work hard to achieve. And that's what we can expect, is that achieving positive goals is hard work. There's no quitting. There's no turning around and walking away from it to achieve a goal. Achieving these goals are very important to success in one's life, as we had discussed last class. So for a brief review, we're going to go back here. Remember, we were in Procedure 3, so hold your place there on page 109. That's the beginning of Chapter 6. And you want to turn back over to LP6D. LP6D, that's one of the grade tab pages here in the Peaceful Solution. It's only in the teacher's manuals that you will find the procedures for the teachers. So make sure if you call to order a book or you try to order a book online from the Peaceful Solution, make sure you ask for the teacher's manual. That is very important because there's a lot of information that you won't have in the student's manual. So here, Procedure 3, we started this last class, and it said, explain that whether or not they are aware of it, goals are part of their daily lives. Sometimes goals are set without any conscious effort and therefore might not be recognized as goals. Share with students that when they were younger, they were setting and accomplishing goals before they realized what they were doing. Examples include learning how to tie their shoelaces, ride a bike, write their names, or read. Tell students that as they mature and their needs become more complex, they will need to learn how to consciously set goals in order to achieve success. And of course, we had students turn to page 109 of their handbooks and to read the introduction. And that's where we're going to restart again tonight, recover a little bit from last class, and then move on in the procedure. So it says, remind students that making goals, like determining their purpose, can be based on influences. And remember what an influence is. An influence is something or someone that has the ability to change the way we think, feel, and act. And you can go back to your character unit if you want to. Put a note there for page 60. And always remember, put a note beside the word influences when you see it. We're told that an influence should never be underestimated, because they have the potential to make life-altering changes in our lives. It could be for the positive side or for the negative side. But once again, determining their purpose can be based upon influences, likes and dislikes, and needs. Hence, goals can be individualized as people who make them. Have students turn to page 110, and that's where we'll continue in their handbooks and read, then discuss section entitled Be a Goal Setter. Allow students time to write some areas of interest, their likes and dislikes on the lines. Ask for a few volunteers to share what they wrote. So before we get to page 110, let's turn back over to page 109. And of course, this was starting chapter 6, reaching for your goals. And we read the first two paragraphs and discussed them in the last class. So we're going to reread it, but we're going to move through it a little quickly so we can continue on to the instructions or the procedures that we're going to do tonight. And once again, it says, starting at the very top of the page with the introduction, did you know that you have been achieving goals since birth? And that's a question we ask the students. And of course, you've seen that in the procedures for the teacher to ask that. And you want to ask your students, you want to get them to start pondering something. You know, and for those of you that are already teachers in the profession, you know that one of the most challenging things that you face is getting students to focus on the topic at hand, and then getting the wheels to turn, so to speak, about what you're saying. So you want to get them to thinking about individualizing, because once again, as we said before, you can have 20 students in a classroom, and you can have 20 different sets of goals, and everybody can be right. You can have 20 different correct ways of achieving things and doing things, as long as they're positive. And we'll get into discussing those later. So once again, we pose that question to them. And then we tell them that a goal is an end that you strive to attain. Walking, talking, attending school for the first time, even learning how to ride a bike are all goals that you have already accomplished. As you grow, there are goals that you will automatically achieve simply by moving from one developmental stage to the next. The developmental stages from infancy to childhood and from adolescence to adulthood are times of incredible physical, mental, and cognitive, now that's the way you think, the growth. You reach these milestones without even being aware of them. You know, one thing to think about as when we talk about goals and how you change from one aspect to another aspect, we brought up in the last class about when you go from being a child to a parent. When you become a parent, you're pretty much going to be a teacher, because you're going to have to be taught certain things. And we have parenting manual that actually help you with that. If you're in need of one, you can contact the Peaceful Solution and we'll gladly send you one. But a parenting manual is something that helps us, and in parenting in general, when we have a child, they don't come with a manual themselves. So we have to learn as a student, and then we have to take what we've learned and teach that child. And sometimes you'll see the grandmother will teach the newly mother, her daughter that just had a child, and she'll guide her with things, helping her and teaching her as she has grown up. And sometimes you'll get an outside source. Some hospitals offer that kind of developmental stage program to where a person can be introduced into what they should do for a newborn. Because once again, once you have the child, there's no manual that comes with that. You kind of got to be able to adapt to that. And your goals change very differently from when you were a single person without the responsibility of a young life to having a young life now. So you go from a student to a teacher in your life, but you're still a student. Even the teacher is still a student. You're learning so you can teach. And it's very important that we always remember that as teachers, our goal should always be to continue learning, to be a student. To continue on here, the second paragraph, it says, however, there is a vast difference between goals you have accomplished because you have reached certain developmental stages and goals that you consciously set and strive to attain. Learning to consciously set and achieve positive moral goals is an important part of growing up, because those goals will change as we age. You'll go from wanting to buy a bicycle or a baseball and a baseball glove or a basketball or, you know, something else. It could be a baby doll. You know, these things change in life. Depends on whether you're a boy or a girl. It also depends around your environment, the environment that's around you and your upbringing, the things that you look toward. But these things will change as you get older. You'll go from a bicycle to a car, you know, or a truck, or a lot of people I see in other countries use these motor scooters to get around. But these are things where your goals, they kind of, as they say, the only difference between a man and a boy is the price of his toys. And that can be a very true statement in the lives of many people. But the responsibility that comes with that is very great also. But once again here it says, learning to consciously set and achieve positive moral goals, once again, is an important part of growing up. It shows that you are maturing, that you have self-control, and that you're responsible and disciplined. It's also one more step in achieving a positive moral character and accepting yourself as a worthwhile human being. Now, setting these positive goals and, once again, realizing you have a purpose, that means you have something to contribute to society, and that helps you, once again, to see that you have this worth. And we're talking about self-respect here in a manner, but this understanding that you have worth and understanding that you have something you can contribute to society. If you look back to page 103, there's an equation there on 103 at the very bottom of the page. And at the very bottom of the page of 103, you see it says positive purpose plus moral character equals success. Well, success is found in achieving your goals. And that's very important that whenever you achieve your goals, you recognize it. You have succeeded when they're positive moral goals. You have succeeded. You've brought forth something to fruition. Also look back here to page 91, because we're talking about this worthwhile human being, knowing you have worth, having self-worth, self-respect, and also knowing that you play an important aspect in the lives of others, not just yourself, but also to others. You know, have your students go back and remind them. Here on page 91, it says, where there is meaning, there is purpose. So where there is meaning, there is purpose. And of course, you think of goals. You set goals to accomplish things for a reason. No one sets a goal of a positive goal just to accomplish it for no reason whatsoever. There's always a cause to setting a goal. Otherwise, you wouldn't set it. So it says another important aspect of accepting that your life has meaning is to determine what your purpose in life is. Everyone's life has purpose. Yes, everyone. And always remember that. The people that you see that's around you, the people that you might not like, the people that you possibly gossip about, the people that you think you're so much better than, well, all of those people have purpose in life also, and they're all worth something. And in fact, when you start measuring life, life is just as valuable from one life to the next. And when you start measuring, well, how much worth more is this person than that person, you know, that depends on a person who's evaluating. You can take some random person, as you see here at the deaths that just took place in Houston at a concert here this last week, and you see the names come across the paper or come across the news, and even though you have a sense of a loss of life, well, it doesn't affect you the way it's affecting the family members of those people who died. The people who had those family members that died, that's very devastating to them. And whenever you have a death in the family, you know, that is, even though it can affect the best of friends, it can affect, you know, cousins, aunts, and uncles. Well, the people that live in that household, it affects them a great more, because that person's purpose was much greater to those that they lived with and they interacted with on a daily basis. And it's always important to remember this, that where you think someone may not have as much value, there's always someone that thinks that's the most valuable person on the face of the earth. And we need to start looking at other people that way, that they have a purpose and they have a lot of value to what they can bring to society. Because notice here in the second paragraph, it says, without purpose, these people are more susceptible to taking unnecessary risks that could lead to experimentation with drugs, alcohol, premarital sex, putting themselves in dangers of deadly sexually transmitted diseases, and in many ways, they give up on themselves and their future. You know, when you see statistics coming out of countries like India and Japan, and when you see the suicide rate and how enormous it is, and you realize that these people, they lost sight of the purpose that they had in life. And you tend to wonder, you know, was there anybody there to try to help remind them of the purpose and the value they had? Or was there people there telling them they didn't have purpose? Did people take advantage of them and use them and abuse them? You know, so these are things that we have to be careful and mindful of when setting our goals. And the reason we're rereading this is because we want to make sure that when people set goals, everybody wants to achieve the highest. Well, you've got to make sure you're not stepping on other people to achieve those goals. You got to make sure you're not bringing someone else down to lift yourself up. That's not a goal worth accomplishing. In fact, that's a very destructive goal, and that would be a negative goal, as we'll get into tonight. When you don't let everyone have purpose, whenever you don't let everyone serve in the purpose that they need to serve in, you find yourself creating goals that not only are they not realistic in a positive way, they're very detrimental to society in general. And here at the very last sentence in the paragraph, it says, keep in mind that your life, like everyone else's, is meaningful and has purpose. Very important to realize, and everyone else's life, everyone, ours and everyone we come into contact with, their life has purpose. But notice, but it is up to you to determine your purpose. And it's also up to us to respect the lives of others so that they can serve their purpose. Without that, we can bring people down very quickly, and you can hurt people, Some things can last people a lifetime. We've seen many times where a lot of young students are demoralized, they're bullied, they're shamed, made fun of, and the potential they had and the magnitude of effect they could have had on the society is lost because they lost the meaning of their own life, and they became to where they didn't even see their own lives having any value. And that's that's the destructive part that negative effects of character can have on society, when we teach or say things that bring others down or that can destroy someone's self-worth or the way they see themselves and their self-respect or the lack thereof. That can actually affect a person for a lifetime and even potentially take their life from them. And we need to make sure that we're doing everything to help others to see their value, to help others know that they have purpose. And a lot of time is giving someone a job and letting them do it. Letting them do it and letting them see that they are given something, responsibility, and they can achieve that job. Very important in putting all of these things together, because if you go to achieve a goal and someone else does it for you, you're not getting much satisfaction out of that. You're not getting the full reward out of having to work to achieve, to do something. Well, here in the last paragraph on page 109, it says, in this lesson, you will learn that in addition to having a purpose to your life, you must also have positive goals. So now we know we need to have a purpose in life, and we need to find out what that purpose is. How do we fit in? That requires becoming educated. And when we find out where we can fit in, we need to educate ourselves in how we fit in. And that's very important, especially if you're a teacher and you have 20 students. This is something that is going to be a wide variety of answers. A lot of different things can be said. One thing we always get from students is someone wants to play either professional basketball, professional football, or professional baseball. And we always ask them, do you know how hard it is to play professional football? Because they think, well, you make millions of dollars and I'm really decent at football. And then you ask them, do you know how many colleges there are in society today? Whether they're Division I, Division II, Division III colleges. And every year they graduate a huge number of players who all have dreams of going to play in the NFL, to make big money, because that's what comes with playing in the NFL. And out of all of those people, very few of them will ever make it. Nothing wrong with having goals, but you have to have realistic goals to where if you wanted to make an attempt at playing professional football, well, what will I do if I don't really make it? You would be setting yourself up for failure if you thought, well, I don't need anything else. This is how it's going to work. Well, even after football, which is a very short career, I think the average is like 5 years now due to injury, you still have to do something else. You have to create something else for yourself to do. So these goals, you'll have more than one goal in life, and we'll get into different even levels of goals. But continuing on here, it says a positive moral goal can be as big as achieving your purpose in life or as small as keeping your room clean. Some goals can be, mine was to get to class on time tonight. It would be very embarrassing for, we start streaming and all you see is an empty chair here. That would be embarrassing to say the least. But, throughout your day, you can have many goals. 1, get up on time. 2, eat a healthy breakfast. 3, some people take supplements. Some people go exercise. They go jog. 4 could be get to work or get to school on time. And even going through that day, if you're a young person who's looking to get a job, even these businesses will have goals that you'll need to achieve throughout the day. And these are not your goals. These are the company's goals that they're wanting you to buy into. In other words, they're actually buying you into believing to accomplish these goals because they're paying you. But even as students, I remember sitting in the classroom, and I remember one of my goals was just to get to the next class. And there were classes I enjoyed a lot, and there were classes that, I took them because they were required by the state of North Carolina. You had to have them to get your diploma. And there were some classes, though, that I really, really enjoyed. So the time flew by in those classes. And in the classes that I didn't really enjoy, it seemed like it took forever. But, there was some times when I would participate in those classes, I found out they were actually pretty decent classes if I would just look at it from a different perspective. And I learned to enjoy I would say the majority of the classes until I got into very complicated math. That took a little bit to enjoy it. After I understood it, there was joy that came to that. But a lot of that we find that understanding how these things work in society, once we see how everything goes together and everything serves the purpose, that's when we find out how we can achieve our goals within that environment itself. But positive moral goals, once again, especially those related to development of moral character, will help you to resist negative peer pressure and will help keep you focused on making choices that will benefit you and others. So these choices that will benefit you and others, because that's one thing that we have to remember, that every time we make a choice or set a goal, everyone else benefits from it. Everyone else can succeed from it. And I want to read to you one more time on page 88. We recovered this last class, but to reestablish in the mind of your students, everyone needs to learn, even as adults. We can have goals and we can know that we have a purpose, but there's still rules in society we have to operate underneath. We can't just decide that we want to just go out one day and start doing something in the city or, in our town. We have to find out, well, what's needed and how do we fit in? And then we put forth the effort in succeeding. But here on page 88, once again, the very bottom, it's the middle starting in the middle paragraph here, we see the young lady with the vacuum cleaner. And it says there are countless ways you can assist others in your community. This is anywhere in your environment, in your school, your community, and your place of employment. Even people that we teach in correctional facilities. There's still places you can help improve in all aspects of life, in the area you live in. Notice once again it says, however, it is up to you to educate yourself about the relevant issues in your area. So that's finding out what needs to be done and how you can help. Once again, you need to ask permission. You ask your parents for permission to get involved. Your parents or your authority, whoever it is that would give you this permission. And it could be a director in your community. It could be the mayor or city council. There's a lot of people that have oversight in a lot of different areas, but you go to the authority of whatever that area might be, school principal, parents, anyone that would oversee that. That's who you go to. And then you ask your teachers or principals, or as well as others in the community, those leaders, about ways that people your age can be of assistance. And that's one thing to remember. You're never too young to get involved and to help build up your community, build up your society, the environment around you. Because when you help build it up, when you set a goal to make your environment better, you're benefiting from it. And you think about goals that we see in life and how they change. And you think about how some of us, to give you an example, before we get here to be a goal setter, we're turning over to page 110. Let's read the first sentence, and then we're going to discuss something that some of us can take for granted. And it says, to set goals, you must first identify what you want to accomplish. And to give us some insight and some thought to how what could be a goal in some person's life, or one person's life, in another person's life might not even be considered. And when you think about that, you consider, well, what is something that would not be, like I can tell you right now, there's something in my life that's not a goal. I was kind of born with it. But other people are walking thousands of miles and going through horrendous things to accomplish what I was born with. And what I'm talking about is to be a citizen of the United States. There are many people around the world that desire to have that goal. To me, I never think about it. It's something that I already have. I'm very thankful that I have it. I'm very thankful that I was born in this country and the many benefits that come along with living in this country. But I look out, and many people I talk to, and I know a lot of people watching overseas and in other countries, that's a goal that they want to achieve, that they desire to achieve. And then you have to look and say, well, why? Why do so many people want to achieve such a goal? Well, it's because of the benefits and the ability to set goals and to accomplish them here in the United States. You can come in, you can create a business, and you can be successful. You can work for someone else. They say the American dream is to have a family, buy a home, and have your car. That's the American dream. Well, they call it the American dream because it was possible, or it is possible. It's just much more expensive today, but it's still possible. Well, for many people, that's not possible in other countries. In fact, it seems such a fairy tale of a dream that the very first thing that they look to succeed in is coming to the United States because it's called the land of opportunity. And I think for most people, if they would say, "Well, I don't really think that," I would tell people you've never been to another country. You need to go to another country and kind of experience what they go through, and you'll see that the United States is very different in the opportunities that you're allowed. As long as you operate within the rules that are here in the United States, because everyone has rules, the opportunities can be endless if you're willing to put forth the effort. Well, there's a lot of people, their dream is to get to that very first part that people like myself can honestly say we might possibly take for granted on an everyday basis, that we have citizenship and have a right to be in this country. That's something that the people that desire that is endless. I can tell you, it's many, many people that desire it. But what we should be actually trying to see is how can we get them to benefit and set goals in their own country to benefit their own society, because obviously not everyone in the world, and I'm not saying everyone wants to come live in the United States. Some people want to live in China, some Russia, some Australia. I've seen where some people go from Haiti to Chile or Argentina, and then they move themselves up to Mexico and they live there. They're just searching for a better way of life or a better opportunity. Their purpose that they feel they have, they're not able to succeed in their goals. And, you never want to condemn a person or a country because you never really understand the challenges that they face. Because what we face here in the United States is much different than what other people's face, due to the fact that we have a booming economy, a large economy, that can sustain many things where some economies cannot sustain the smallest of things. And it's easy to take that for granted, but we shouldn't. We should be very thankful and realize that these are goals of some other people. So how can we help them make goals also? Think about that. Have your students. I know there's a lot of students that interact with other people on a national and global scale in their classrooms through Zoom, through Skype, through WhatsApp. It's become very common back when I was in school, you would have what they called pen pals. And you would write a letter and you would send it to someone in another country. And one of the most requested things you would ask for is a stamp from that country. You'd want something, you'd ask for money sometimes, but it was more respectful to ask for a stamp because stamps are very decorative from one country to the next. And you would get these things, but you would engage with people and you would learn about the difference of people and what their goals would be and how different their country is, but realizing we're all interdependent on each other, no matter what country they live in, whether it's the UK, you think about Europe itself, and the countries that make up the EU, and they all come together. And when one country steps out of those goals that we're looking to accomplish, like the UK, it really shakes things up. Or when one country tests the nuclear bomb, for example, that shakes up everybody on a global scale. Or like the hypersonic missiles that we've seen countries running tests on, that shakes up everyone. But that was a goal that those countries had, and they succeeded in their goal. And you kind of have in the back of your mind, well, what's the purpose of their goal? Well, a lot of it feels like they have to defend themselves. Well, our goals that we're looking to accomplish, once again, should be positive goals that build up everyone, build up every society, every country. All life has value, and everyone has a purpose. So continuing on here on page 110, it says your goals can be based upon your experiences and observations. Sometimes experience can be the worst way to learn. And as growing up, try to engage with your students and ask them, even though they might be young, 11, 12, 13, 14, if you're teaching this to a group of adults, you can get the same effect. It's just the experiences will be much broader. But ask your students, what are some experiences that you could share? You want to make sure they're appropriate for the classroom, that if you had the opportunity, knowing what you know now, they say hindsight is 20/20, but knowing what you know now, what would you have done differently to receive a better outcome? And, engage with your students, have them talk about it, have them converse about it, and that will help them to expand their thoughts and actually gets the minds turning of everybody in the classroom, because you want everybody to feel they can participate in this. Because student 1 to student 10 to student 20, all of them are just as valuable in their goals whether they want to be a president, if they want to be a mayor, if they want to work at Walmart, if they want to run a restaurant, all of these things, it's endless in the things that you think about people do every day that we kind of use these things that people do without just thinking about them. When you drive down the street and there's no trash in the street, well, somebody helped clean up the street. Somebody collected the trash. When you go into certain places and you think, this is a nice place. Well, somebody worked very hard to make it a nice place. And there's a lot of effort that people put forth in doing jobs and achieving goals that, kind of get overlooked. And we need to learn to be thankful of everything that we see that's a benefit to us and that is really pleasant to the eye, that is helping us build positive character. There's some things we'll discuss tonight that's pleasant to the eye that doesn't build positive character. You have to be on guard for. But we need to learn to be thankful and be respectful that someone worked hard to bring that about. And it could be something as small as going into a clean restroom that everyone can use, and it's clean, and when it's clean when you go in, it should be clean when you go out. And that can be one of your goals, to make it, leave it just as nice as it was before you got there, because you would want the person before you to do that same thing. Well, here on a larger scale, many farmers, and those are very important people in our society, they help produce the things that help our society turn, whether it be through the clothes we wear, the bringing forth of cotton, or the food that we eat. Well, many farmers go broke each year because they experiment instead of using proven methods. And, this experimenting is usually done to try to stay of a purpose, to keep your value in society. And when I say your value, in running a farm, you have to, of course, you have profits and losses. You're trying to keep your farm profitable by keeping your product in society for the price that people will purchase your product. And commodities can be a very complicated thing. So people are always looking for a way to reduce their price and bring forth the same product, even though cost goes up in the market of the consumer, such as you as I, or you or I, the price of the profit for the farmer can even go down more. So just because the cost is up like on corn doesn't mean that they make more money in the very bottom end of the farmer themselves. You might pay more, but that doesn't mean they make more. The cost of producing it can become very complicated. So farmers will try and they'll experiment. And one of the greatest examples I would encourage every teacher to take their students through is to go back through the 1930s to 1937. It's in the 1930s. They called it the Dirty 30s of the Dust Bowl. And that affected all of the United States. Even the dust itself was found on ships out in the Atlantic Ocean. And I would encourage, if you ever have time to help your students to go through to see what, this is what we'll do and we'll make more money. We'll do this and we'll make more. We'll do better. And they had the old saying, wheat will win the war. Well, in the war they were fighting, they kind of created another obstacle by the fields they plowed up. And the way they did it, they tried to do it in a quicker, more effective way as far as money, but it wasn't effective as far as preservation. And it cost a lot of people to lose a lot of things, their houses, their farms, their lives. But that's something great to take your students through so they can see that's not been that long ago. It hasn't even been 100 years yet. So it's very beneficial if you can take them through and show them about the Great Depression, which started in 1929. Take them through, let them see the Dust Bowl. All of that came in together, and you can see how people went from their goals was to run my farm and to grow my harvest to just find a place to stay, find a place to live, find a place to lay my head down. Goals change very quickly due to the circumstance of the environment. And it will help them gain an appreciation for having the basic necessities, because in that day, in the United States, this land of the free where dreams are made, that's the same country that people lost everything. So take them through that. It's a great opportunity to educate the mind with those things. But continuing on here on page 10, being a goal setter, page 110, it says, for example, you read an article about pollution in the oceans and the effects it has on marine life. You become so interested in the subject, you research all you can about the subject and decide your purpose is to help improve the conditions of the ocean. And that's something that would be a great topic right now for a teacher to take their students through, because if you research the news, you see where there's many people saying the oceans are dying, ocean life is suffering, ocean life is fading away. It would be interesting to hear feedback from students on, well, what do you think could be done? There's a lot of people that say we want to save the world. And, the World Health Organization made a comment here not long ago about how they wanted to put an end to starvation. And then Elon Musk, who is a very wealthy person in our world today, made the comment he would donate $6 billion to achieve that goal if they could prove to him that they would succeed. So here you have someone that makes a statement, and you have someone that says, I'll put up the money if it's a realistic goal. And the point about that is if you're going to say we can do this and spit out a number, well, let's make sure we can accomplish it. Well, should a number really hold us back? Should monetary value really hold us back from making sure everyone has something to eat? Well, we got to consider that. Think about your goals in life, and think about the accomplishment of goals in life, and how some people do without while other people seem to flourish in abundance. When you think about people that are worth hundreds of billions of dollars, and you think, well, who's worth hundreds of billions? We have companies that are worth $1 trillion here in the United States. Then every one of them try to give back in their own certain way to help society. But the question is, the goals, are they accomplishing their goals? Are they actually benefiting society? Well, when you set forth your goal, like wanting to help make the oceans better, and based on the influences, as it says here, you might make a goal of becoming a marine biologist. Well, there's a lot of marine biologists that you'll probably want to talk to figure out if you want to really consider doing that. And there's a lot of people that make themselves accessible, because goals are accomplished off of ideas. And there's a million ideas out there for every topic, every problem. But there's a lot of problems in society that tend to escape being able to solve them. And you'll see a lot of people, they run to find the cure for cancer, and they run to find, a cure for this or a cure for that. But yet society has been eluded of finding these cures for these diseases, that even the marine life suffer themselves. And you tend to start to think, well, for me, myself, I would want to know, if we're treating the cause, well, what is the cause? We're treating the result of an action. What is the action? And that's what I would tend to want to pry into the minds of people that already have, like a marine biologist. If someone was telling me the animal life was dying and I really was interested, well, why is it dying? What caused this to take place? Putting a Band-Aid on the problem doesn't fix. That doesn't accomplish a goal. Trying to figure out what's causing this to take place. What's causing? And I think about this when it comes to goals, and I'll tell you, you can learn to hate cancer very quickly when you have someone close to you die from cancer. And when you experience that, the first question in your mind is, man, what caused this? I see what the result from it was, but what caused it? And I got to where I watched a lot of things about cancer, and I seen where people had ideas on how to treat it. People had an idea, here what to do, go to this country, do this. But I only found one person that was actually saying this right here is most likely the cause of it. And I thought that was very interesting, because very few people would say, what is the cause? The result, a lot of people were talking about and how to deal with the result of it, but very few people were talking about the cause. And that interested me, because you would think for any problem we face in society, and whenever you want to set a goal, and there's a problem, you would first look and say, well, what caused this problem? Mechanics do that with cars. Whenever you have your water's not working at your house, or your computer's not running properly, you always have to find the cause of the problem to get the solution. You can't really, give your computer an injection and say, oh, you'll be better now. Computer gets viruses all the time, and you think, well, I'll inject it and that'll keep it safe. No, you can't really do that. You can't inject your car with something and that solve the problem. It doesn't work that way. So in creating these goals, and what I'm trying to say is, when you get these goals and you're talking about these problems in society, gear your students more towards how to solve problems, how to find solutions. There's a lot of people that talk about the problem. a lot of people that have put Band-Aids on the situations, but very few people will actually take the initiative to educate themselves, to find the cause, to find the answer. And I'm not saying that's an easy thing. I'm not saying that finding what causes cancer can be an easy thing. There's a vast amount of things that you'll find when you read into that, or any other disease. There's a lot of things that lead to that. It's not just one thing, we get rid of it, now it's gone. So think about that when setting goals. It's going to be a challenge. It's going to be difficult. It's going to be hard, but it is possible. It is possible to achieve these goals. But once again here it says, goals therefore will vary based on your studies and also your likes and dislikes, or your experiences that you have in your family or friends. Be very mindful and careful when pursuing your goals. If true moral values are consistently broken, then problems can arise. So if you have to do something you know is ethically against supporting life, supporting health, supporting someone else, in other words, bringing harm to yourself, someone else, or the environment, if it does that, then you're breaking moral values. And remember what a value is. We read that on page 6 of the character unit, and that was what you deem important. You know, that's a value, something you deem important to yourself. Well, we're talking about to ourselves and others on a global scale, something being valuable. If you have to hurt something to create a value to someone else, there's something wrong there. You know, and I don't want to make too much a comment because I don't want things to be political, but let's say if you have to hurt something here to possibly make a benefit to something here, you have to start thinking, is that really a positive goal? How could hurting something or someone here be beneficial to someone here? If someone has to suffer, how can that be the answer? You know, that might be the quick answer that people think is more beneficial, but sometimes we just have to look at the situation and put forth a lot harder work into achieving our goal, and society doesn't always want to do that. They want the here and now, as we said, you know, where they used to go build a fire and they'd get the pot over the fire, and then they'd go, if they wanted meat, they would kill the animal, and then they'd part out the animal, or they'd raise the harvest, and then they would prepare the food. That was what society used to do. Today we stand in front of microwaves and literally yell, hurry up. 30 seconds has become too long for us to eat our food. And that's something that we have to be mindful of when we want to address problems in society, such as with negative character or negative goal setting. Fixing these things require re-educating, getting all the facts, because society is slipping. You'll find your students are suffering. They have to answer for the lack of education and decision-making for the generation before them, and that's what falls upon the next generation. You always hear government talk about that we're leaving the debt for our grandchildren to pay. Well, we're also leaving the problems for our grandchildren to suffer through if we don't work hard to find valid answers. And that should be goals to make life better for people, not to pass on the problems from one society to the next or from one generation to the next. We should work hard to, all people have value, everyone has a purpose, and our goals should benefit everyone, regardless of nationality, regardless of color of skin. These are the things that we should work toward. And if we get that in the mind of our students, we can have a whole generation that will think and operate that way. We can't have a generation of, you just got to step on them to move yourself up. If you want it, take it. You know, take it by force if you have to. It's yours. You've earned that right. Well, no, we haven't earned that right. We haven't earned that right at all just to take something from someone. When we have that mindset that it's okay for us to do it, we have to be okay that it's okay for someone to do it to us. And that's not going to operate very peacefully in a society. But once again here, on page 110, it says, be very mindful and careful when pursuing your goals. Stress that to your students. Careful, be very careful. If true moral values are consistently broken once again, then problems can arise. On the other hand, if you desire peace, joy, great health, and yes, financial security, financial stress could be the worst thing to go through, you must base all of your decisions on true moral values in the endeavor to bring these things to your life. And, you know, give them examples. Show them things. Find examples on a global scale a local scale, financial security, we even speak about companies such as Enron and other companies that were on the surface worth millions, hundreds of millions of dollars that became worth nothing, bankrupt. People went to jail that worked for those companies. Show them how, there's a right and a wrong way to do things. Discuss it amongst themselves and how they can help improve. The way we learn from experience is seeing what has taken place on the outside. That's the best way. Going through it yourself is not the experience you want. Being able to see what others have done, they've already done it, so you can't go back and undo it. It's already done. So if you can learn from it, we need to. What not to do to make life better for those, not only for ourselves, but for those who come after us. That should be a goal of everyone. And that would be a positive goal. But notice it says, in addition to setting goals to fulfill your purpose in life, you can set goals to better yourself. A lot of people do that with health, with eating, watching their weight. Some people start a hobby, or they'll, raise a garden. Some people will get an old car and they'll try to restore a car. Some people will, learn to paint, start painting. Some people will learn how to play a musical instrument. And they do these things to get their minds off the day-to-day grind, or that daily grind we talked about, so they can focus on something more peaceful. And it's a goal within a goal. And sometimes your goal is doing something to help alleviate stress, because one thing that you'll find in setting goals, and goals can be very difficult to achieve, in setting goals you're going to have, as we spoke about before, the setbacks, the curveballs and the pitfalls, and you're going to experience a lot of stress in accomplishing your goals. And in your end goal, you'll have so many goals in between the final goal you're looking to achieve. And it can be anything from buying a car, having a family. Some people just want to have peace in their life. And sometimes people are kind of blind to how to achieve their goals. A lot of people will have a goal in life that, I'd like to be debt-free and not have any debt and be able to manage my money. But they constantly go get themselves in debt. And they're always borrowing money to get out of debt. And we found, even on a national scale, borrowing money does not get you out of debt. It puts you deeper in debt. The only way to reduce debt is to pay your debt. A lot of people set goals for that. Sometimes at a very young age, people can bury themselves into financial debt, and insecurities take place, and a lot of stress can be coming up in someone's life. And when you're talking to your students, it's likely that some of them live in households to where financial stress affects everyone in the family, including your students. And you'll find students that their goal is to just get a pair of shoes that everybody else is wearing, or just get the shirt that everybody else is wearing, just be as nicely dressed, or have the jewelry, have whatever else everybody else is doing. Well, our goals that we're setting, our purpose in life, there's goals that you get to better yourself. And one thing you have to remember, and you want to get across to your students, and this can be very difficult, but at a young age, it's hard for someone to see. It's hard for them to accept that if everybody else is wearing nicer things and you don't have them, and let's say you work hard, you do it in a positive way. So you work very hard to go get that nice pair of shoes, or that nice shirt, or the nice blue jeans. After you've accomplished that, it doesn't make you a better person. You've accomplished a goal. If you've worked for it and you bought it with your money, you've accomplished a positive goal, but it didn't make you a better person. And it's very important that they realize it's okay to have that goal. It's okay to work to achieve that goal. But you were no less valuable before you achieved that goal, and it made you no more important after you achieved the goal. These are things that can be complicated in the lives of children, young adults, even older adults can be in the same situation. But it's important for them to realize that some goals can be very blurred. Even though they're positive, you can accomplish something just to fit into society, but it didn't improve you as a person. You accomplished a goal to fit in, but it didn't change anything for you as far as value or your contribution to society, other than you got a job, you worked, you paid money for your product. That was positive. That contributed to society. But achieving it didn't make you a better person just to wear the shoes to fit in with everybody else. Another example is you can improve your grades or learn to play an instrument. In other words, you can set goals for what you want to achieve and for what you want to improve in. And, if you ever sit back and go, there's nothing I really can improve in, then your goal should be humility, because that's a goal that you'll need to achieve, because we all can improve. Each and every one of us have something we can improve in. One thing I've noticed, I tell you one thing I have. When I'm writing and I'm taking notes from people, let's say I'm at a lecture and someone's speaking, I write in a shorthand that I'm probably the only one that could understand what I'm writing, because I leave out letters and I try to write down as much information as I can. And I don't really care too much if it's even where someone else can read it, as long as I can go back and read it. And sometimes I'll look at it and I'll think, what did I write? But if I'm writing something for someone else to read, I tend to want to write it neatly and put all the letters there. That's very important when you're writing something for somebody else to read, but you want to be neater about it. But if I'm doing it for myself and I'm using it for my notes that I will later go back through and re-clarify everything, it can be fairly sloppy. But my goal is to get as much information as I can. It's not for it to be as neat as possible, because I feel like that I won't get everything that I would really like to get out of the lecture at the time. And that's just, many people can have many different things. That's just one that I experienced, that I go through, in wanting to achieve what I look to achieve. But here you have the bottom, it says my goals. And notice here it says learn how to manage my time better. That's a goal that I think everybody works to achieve, especially when, as you get older. And I used to tell the young men, this are not young men anymore, are not young children. They're young men now. Some of them are really grown men. But when they were younger, 10, 12, they were students of ours, and we would tell them, you will never have as much time in your life as you have right now. Make as much use of your time as you can. And we would tell them, when you get older, you're going to find you're going to get more responsibilities, and you're going to have a lot less time in your life, and you're not going to be able to enjoy the freedom of always having time to get things done, because it's going to get more complicated. And as they've gotten older, now they come back to us because they have families, and they come back and they say, life gets very complicated, and life really, the time is reduced greatly, because as life gets complicated, now you have to find solutions to your problems. And there's nothing wrong. Some people always find the need to ask to get assistance, and some people never ask. Sometimes we suffer through things that we shouldn't have to. And remember, we went through that with our students before. If you ever have a situation, even if you got a goal you're looking to achieve, and you're having a problem achieving it, you can always get with a trusted adult, get with a guardian, someone that you can work with, and they'll help you to achieve your goals. And even time management, that's something we need to learn to do. Joining a speech class, that's something that, even if you've never been interested in public speaking, one thing I can tell you, if you've ever wanted to start a business, joining a speech class will help you tremendously in learning how to communicate with others, finding topics to communicate with, connecting with others. There's so many things that joining a speech class and participating in a speech class benefits you in, besides just public speaking. Just interacting and being able to engage, it goes a long way. Learning to play the guitar. I'm very blessed. I have friends that can do that, so I let them do it for me to listen to. I don't have the patience, nor do I have the time. It's something I've always wanted to do, but I've realized in life there's some things you have to start drawing lines through in the immediate future. So that might be a goal for me later on in life. It's not something I'll achieve anytime soon. But there's a lot of people I know that can do it really well. They did it when they were younger. There's some people I know that as they're growing, they're trying to learn to do it. They have a desire to do it. But like any other goal or any other instrument, I would imagine, it has its own difficulty. If it didn't have difficulty, everyone would probably be doing it. But just for the fact that it takes a lot of practice shows that, it takes some work. And once again, all goals that are worth doing and achieve that find success, you're going to find difficulty in them. Well, looking over here to page 111, this is where we're going to engage with our students even more and have them put some pen to paper, so to speak. And it says, on the lines, list areas of interest and your likes and dislikes that can help you in setting a positive goal. And you can find families And I'll give you an example of myself and my two brothers and goals that we have. I have an older brother that his goal was to be a farmer, to work with animals, and now he runs a dairy farm. I had a younger brother that he wanted to be a printer at one time, and he learned how to do that very well, and then he developed this interest in learning how to train dogs. Both of them like animals, very different. One's like dogs, one likes raising cows and producing milk and so forth. Me, on the other hand, I want nothing to do with any of that. I like dogs. I have a dog. I like dairy. I eat it, but it's not something I don't want to raise them, and I don't want to, I'd like for him to teach my dog how to do certain things. I do to a certain extent, but he gets into a much more advanced level in educating animals, even with using the peaceful solution, believe it or not. And we were brought up in the same household. My father was a furniture builder. Later on in life, that's what I became, was a furniture builder. But early on in life, he was a dairy farmer. And that's what my older brother became. Now, where dog training come in from, I have no idea. But I'm sure the inspiration took place, most likely from a teacher that my younger brother experienced in his life that led him to want to do things of that nature. But you have to educate yourself in these things. And getting educated, the reason I use myself and my brothers, we all grew up in the same household, but yet we went very different ways when we became adults in the goals we wanted to achieve and the things we wanted to do. But all three of them benefit society. And if you would ask us when we were younger, I probably would have told you I wanted to learn to do furniture. I was always intrigued by it because I would sit and watch my father build it in a furniture factory when I would wait to catch the bus to go to school. That's kind of what I did every morning, was watch furniture be built in a huge furniture factory in North Carolina. So that kind of got my interest in just watching the whole process, because I seen it on a huge scale and I wanted to understand it even from a young age. But there's other things that, you might not know what you want to do as a young person, but as you educate yourself, that's why you write your likes and dislikes. If you're someone that's not an animal lover, you're probably not going to be a veterinarian. If you're someone that's kind of grossed out by blood, you're probably not going to be a doctor, or a physician. But there's things that you can do to find your purpose in life and to fit in, and everybody can benefit from them. So have them write their likes and dislikes, and then discuss them. Well, if you don't like this is a job you probably wouldn't do. Help them see that. If they like this is the job you might like, you might be interested in. One thing I learned when I was in school, a lot of my classmates that I've learned through social media later on in life, a lot of my classmates, when we were in school, we would talk about how we didn't like this teacher, didn't like that teacher. And I think over 50% of the people I went to school with became teachers. And they're now teachers in schools, public schools and private schools. So that's something that, even though you might not have liked it, here you go doing the same thing. Well, here on the bottom of page 11, it says, don't lose control of your life. Take control. And that's something you have to do. That can be a goal of yours, to take control of your life. Practice your lesson from the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program, or the lessons from the Peaceful Solution, because it's very important that we take everything we learned and put it into play. Sometimes we don't see the benefit of something until we start using it. It's kind of like a tool or something that you've had around. The Peaceful Solution is the same way. You don't see the benefit of what this program can do until you start putting it to use in your life, even with something as simple as setting goals. We're going to stop right there, because our next teacher, who will be William, will get into the difference between positive goals and negative goals and discuss a little bit of the difference, because having likes and dislikes was helping people to identify what they want to do. And then it's very important to identify what it is that they're going to do to help benefit society, not just themselves. And William will cover a couple things that you can benefit yourself, but you'll be a detriment to society. So once again, our next page we'll pick up on will be page 112. That'll be starting procedure 4. So next class, procedure 4, page 112, and it will be on 11/14. It will be this coming Sunday at 5:30. So 11/14 at 5:30. Once again, thank you for joining us, and set a goal to make it back to the class, but also write goals down for yourself on a daily basis and start working to achieve your goals, as we'll join in with the next class to start seeing how to make them positive and eliminate the negative ones. Thank you once again for joining us.